For several years, I've lived in a pretty secluded area next to an oversized grass field that was a little over 8 feet tall. It stretched all the way to my family's property. When I was around 7 years old, my brothers and I used to go play hide and seek in the part of the field behind our house. I knew that field better than anyone, so I always had the advantage when we played. One night around 1 a.m., my oldest brother decided it would be a great idea to go play hide and seek in the field. Now, we played in the field often, but never at night, so at first I was a little bit skeptical. But since I was the youngest out of the four, they talked me into going easily. On the way to the field, my brothers were arguing over who was going to seek while the others hid. They always left me out of those arguments because they thought I would get lost if I were to be the one to seek. So minding my own business while they were talking, I managed to look at the part of the field that was quite far away from our house. As I looked, I saw something looking back at me. I immediately was terrified due to it being much taller than the grass. I then tried to tell my brothers about it, but they just wouldn't listen. So I managed to convince myself I was just seeing things, so I could continue on with them, which I did. When we finally got to the field, I found out that they decided my oldest brother was it. So after deciding on who I was going to hide with, my brother began counting all at once, and all my brothers and I began running into the field. Since I was busy following one of my brothers, I didn't really notice when the others separated from us. I began to realize that we were going out way further than I expected, and way further than usual. Getting worried, I turned to tell my brother about it, but I didn't see him. I stopped running and stood in place. I felt so scared, I'm surprised I didn't cry. Wandering in the part of the field I didn't recognize, I managed to get lost, so I began yelling for my oldest brother, knowing he had the better hearing. As I was yelling, I felt someone put their hand on my shoulder and begin to whisper, "Shh." Thinking it was my brother, I turned around getting ready to hug him. But as I turned, I saw a tall figure towering over me. It was too dark to see any other details. All I could see was its shiny white eyes staring right back at me. At that exact point in time, I was too scared to think. All that was going through my mind was the same word on repeat: run, run, run. But when I tried to turn, the grip on my shoulder got tighter. I couldn't move and I was too afraid to speak, so I just stood there staring at it. Tears began falling down my cheek. I closed my eyes, just bracing myself for whatever was going to happen. Then out of nowhere, my brother came in from behind me and was apologizing profusely. I was confused, the figure was no longer to be seen. I looked in every direction. Nowhere. How is it that in one moment I felt I wasn't going to see my family again? Then the next, it's gone. I'm really not sure what I saw that day or what its plans were, but I'm just happy my brother got to me in time. It seemed as if I was the only one who could see what it was, or if it was just my imagination, but I know what I saw. I know what happened to me wasn't my imagination. It was just as real as I am, and I'm afraid that if I ever run into it again, no one's going to be there to save me. Sometimes in life, we see or experience something so jarring that it becomes embedded forever in our minds. It can even affect our lives. This is one of those situations. To be honest, I don't exactly remember how old I was, but I think it's safe to say I was around 9 or so. My parents are Caribbean and I was born in the US. As a way to keep touch with my roots, they always had me travel once a year during summer to visit family and get to know my culture a bit more. So one summer we packed up and I didn't think anything was out of the ordinary. We got there safely and went about our weekend unpacking and catching up with family. Monday rolls around and my cousins came over to see if I wanted to hang out. We'll call them Manny and Layla. We grabbed our bikes and decided to go onto the hills where we usually went to have a game of hide and seek. It was my turn to find them, so I started counting and they ran off. When I hollered I was going to go look for them, I had an uneasy feeling. I couldn't shake it, but I just decided to shrug it off. Sometimes when I find myself alone, I get mini panic attacks. But by this age, I had learned to cope with them for the most part. I started checking the usual spots. Finally, I found Layla, so she and I go down to try to find Manny. We approach some trees and start to scan the area. As I was looking, my eyes widened. I knew I had an active imagination, so I really think at this point my mind was playing tricks on me. I whispered, "Hey, Layla, who are they?" She turns around and sees what I'm seeing. 2 large men beating some poor fool senseless. Layla quickly grabs me and we crouch down by a pile of wood and rocks. These guys were beating and kicking this other guy so bad. From behind us we hear footsteps. It was Manny. Before he could say anything, we grab him and make him get low and cover his mouth and point at what we're seeing. His eyes got so big. I whispered, "Shh! Don't let them hear us." We didn't have any cell phones at this time, and the closest house was a mile away. We couldn't risk running or they'd see us. We were helpless. The guys kept on cursing at this dude. Then one of them pointed something at him. A loud pop rang through the air. It echoed. Then silence. The man on the ground wasn't moving. The 2 men then looked around and walked off to some rusty truck nearby and left. My heart was pounding. I wanted to note my way out of the situation, but I felt paralyzed. We had just witnessed a murder. Layla's eyes were filling up with tears, and my breathing got fast. I was having an attack. She managed to calm me down, but I couldn't move. Manny went to go get help. I don't remember much after that. I do remember my parents rushing to us. The police asked us some questions. My mom was telling them that's that, to let us be. She didn't want me to get involved and face retaliation. Turns out the guys we saw were from a gang, and the guy they killed owed them some money. I never found out more than this. My grandpa was a retired cop there, and I think he pulled some strings to keep me from having to come forth on anything and have our description of the events released anonymously. The guys, to my knowledge, weren't caught. I'll never forget what I witnessed. It's one thing to see that kind of stuff on TV and in the movies, but to see a real-life human just shoot someone point blank like that with no remorse, yeah, that was something that will always stick with me for the rest of my life. So I'm currently 15 years old, and this incident happened just over a month ago, and it still freaks me out nonetheless. It was a Friday. I was at my friend's house, let's call him A. It was his birthday party, and he called a bunch of our buddies from class 2, and we were all just going to stay at his house until Sunday. We decided to watch a movie first, so we ended up watching A Quiet Place 2. During the end credits though, my friend, whom I'll call B, suggested we play hide and seek in the entire apartment after we cut the cake. My other friends and I just smiled and agreed, since it had been a while since we'd played that game. Anyways, after we cut the cake, we had an amazing meal of grilled vegetables and chicken made by A's father. We then decided that our other friend C would be the seeker, to which I felt kind of bad for him because he's not the best at seeking, especially in big areas. We made him count for 5 minutes, and we all ran separately in opposite directions. I had the genius idea to hide in A's apartment room. However, while I was going there, more accurately running there, I accidentally bumped into some guy on the 2nd floor. I got up, and me being a nice guy that I am, I apologized and helped the person get up as well. However, when I got a closer look at his appearance, I was honestly a little creeped out. He had this appearance and energy that really gives me the heebie-jeebies. He had a fairly decent build, but his hands felt so crusty and rough. Something about his eyes and face when I looked at them just sent shivers down my spine. I don't know how to properly describe it though. When he smiled at me, his teeth were so yellow and weirdly placed to the point where I doubted this guy had an actual dental checkup even once in his life. And he reeked. More than I usually do, but much worse. However, me being a not judgy person or anything, I apologized again. I was about to leave when he asked me, "Where are you going, little boy?" I was a little surprised. Not because he just said that in a slightly creepy tone, but because of the fact that I was taller than him. I'm 5'10". This guy looked to be at least 5'7". But yet again, I responded in a polite manner. Just playing hide and seek with my buddies. And that's when he says something that just weirds me out. He says, "Oh, can I play too then?" I gave the man a weird stare, because he looked to be in his mid-40s. I've got to go, sir," I responded, already weirded out enough. I then sprinted towards the 5th floor, where my friend's flat was, when I saw C already searching the floor. So my idea was all for nothing, I thought. I didn't expect C to be that smart. Damn it, I thought, and immediately, yet slowly went towards the parking lot, where I found my friend D hiding behind a fairly large van. We were just silently chatting, when all of a sudden we wanted to move to a more comfortable spot. I got up and we walked to the other side of the van, when I saw the same man from maybe 10 minutes ago. "Hi there," he said in a creepy tone. I was paralyzed for the moment. Dee was confused, but we just pretended like we didn't hear him and slowly continued on, slowly. Then he said, "You've got cute butts, you know." We were both shocked and disgusted. I was also angered a bit, but I held it together and continued on. Suddenly, we heard rapid footsteps, and before either of us could turn our heads, the guy had wrapped his arms around my neck and started to choke me. Dee rushed to help me, but was kicked back and stomached by the guy. Now, not to sound cocky, but I'm pretty strong for my age. Plus, I've seen enough movies and practiced a bit of wrestling and boxing with my dad and big brother enough to defend myself. So, I simply elbowed him hard in the gut. Then after he loosened his grip on me, I hit him in the face out of anger for kicking my friend too. And I swear I felt something break. I had broken his nose, and there he was on the floor screaming in pain, but strangely, not very loudly. Dee and I ran, and apparently A and our friend E had seen the whole event, because they started running with us too. When B saw us running and asked us what was wrong, we told him that we'd explain later, and to just stay silent and follow us for now. After we reached A's flat, we all sat in his room and just talked about the whole story. We were all visibly shaken that day, but we tried our best to just enjoy the rest of the birthday and to just move on. The next day, we asked a few people from the second floor whether they knew the guy from yesterday, and to our shock, they said they didn't know the guy. As frustrating as this might sound, we never told anyone of this, and I don't think anyone will anytime soon.